a little bit of a question, because for the side of Weibo, they thought they had something cool to work with there. They thought they had this really cool pick combo with the all-in kind of like wombo that never really got off the ground. And yeah, part of that is a good zone control between the Xin Zhao and the Shockwave, preventing easy access. But then, actually, the fact that Ala, despite being attacked, still useful on the Jace, the fact that Ziggs did so damn well in that lane, that Nilah just consistently eating damage at every given moment, especially when Crisp was leaving, to make plays happen elsewhere with the Ashe, which was pretty successful, in fairness. The Ashe looked good. It felt pretty hard for them.
Yeah, and you know, again, a lot of this game, realistically for me, comes back to the very first levels of the game where Light went under a turret and took a turret shot in that 2v2. Now, you can look at this combo and you can say, hey, this Ziggs, the Rakan, it looks really good for them. If you don't get that good an early lane and you don't get 40 CS ahead of the Nilah, and you don't stop Light from having any impact in this game is completely different. Yeah. So often for Weibo, it has been, let's just wait for Light to get teamfight impact later into the game. When Light is on a pick which doesn't impact the game, when you shut him down into a game, this team falls apart. And the fact that he's on a Nilah right now as well, which was so far behind from the early game, the most snowbally champion from bot lane, it feels like in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
This is a bad look for them.
I mean, look at the damage difference. The Snake does nearly 20,000 more damage than Nilah. The Nilah nearly only did just more damage than Yodang did on the Rel.
And, yeah, and you know, we saw him try and go in for a couple of apotheosises, right? But the thing is, like, when Nilah is in a play, you have to realize you are not getting out without killing everyone through it.
Yeah.
You only get out through plays if you win a fight through it. And as we saw, because you're behind in damage, you just can't get into this. It's too hard to reach the targets. You have 4 ranged champions. Rakan is basically a ranged champion anyway. The Xin Zhao as well is really good at stopping follow-up damage from coming through. It's just a really difficult situation. And even when you got something like that Karma for Xiaohu, it wasn't enough to get through quite bulky Xin Zhao frontline.
Yeah, and it wasn't something we got to chat about in game too much, but the Snake, like, this Ziggs has always been a pocket pick for him. We kind of mentioned it's a fearless draft thing, but he's used to playing against Nihilus. This is not something he's unused to. You would regularly see Nihilus, Samira's kill lanes locked in as fearless drafts get further down the line, because you run out of standard combos. Because the thing of the bot lane in Fearless Draft is it's not just one champion like in other lanes, it's a duo lane. So you do end up with those kill combos coming on through a bit more. So the Ziggs was often his answer, and you can see why. He was just throwing out damage to Nilah, like, had to all in or lose, and you're doing it at half HP half the time.
Feels a little bit awkward here. Well, sad, really, for Crisp and for ZDZ as well. Chris that took tower aggro, Xiaohu took tower aggro, which meant that Ala could end up getting some really... Like, basically, Ala's just there was like, well, it's kind of a 2v2 if you take 3 tower shots, so he ends up beating him out in this play as well. It felt like ZDZ and Chris almost had the answer to this equation. And this one here too, like, fantastic interrupt. ZDZ had some fantastic moments. That's the first half of the equation. The second half of the equation is saying, well, can I get the resets and start going through to things? If you have another team member there, if you have the Rel, that's fine, because then you have enough CC to buy you through to your next Q, and then you can get through to your healing. It just wasn't quite there in time. So, game 1 goes the way of EDG, and we're going to take ourselves a little break. We're going to chill out. I hear that T1 won their series versus D+, even though the early game went a bit wild.
There's some good RE play from what I saw in the highlights there.
From what I saw of the early game, it wasn't, so I heard some people saying not, but we'll be the judge of that at a later date.
I have no idea.
I'll do a VOD review at some point. We'll see it. And, right, I'm gonna lay back. I'm gonna chill. Probably about 10 minutes before back in game, I guess. I'm going to the toilet as well.
Do you mind sticking the kettle on for me, please? Sure. Thank you. Oh, Tion was down in both games. Down bad. Figure was a bit questionable. Interesting. Good to know. Again, we didn't see too much of it, so again, it was not something I had up on screen, so I didn't really see too much. Then Zeus hit 3 items. One of those games. Oh. Your back cushion is really nice on this chair, Al. What the hell? Why is my back cushion not this good? I need one of these. This is excellent. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the lumbar support is very nice on this one. It's better than some. Which I do appreciate. I'm not going to lie. Oh. You got Foxtails. You got Pain. Yeah. Dig. In my heart at all times. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Let me have a look. Maybe live to the YouTube stream episode so I can check the YouTube chat as well. Predictions are the best. Says the no 2 number 1 or Tau number 1. Good for you.
而且开到的团战，其实微博这把开的蛮不错的，但伤害跟不上。
Check out. See what Reddit has to say about the T1 series. Good to see.
对于寒冰这一剑的克制，就导致最后既缺乏伤害，同时呢，你想留人也不好留啊，最后就变成了由 EDG 的一波波完美的反打能够打出来。
When did they finish? About 8 minutes ago, apparently.
炸弹人这一场比赛面对双射手实现了在线上的反压。
挺没想到的，因为炸弹人这把选出来本来是想着下路抗压。
Apparently, should have been a quick 2 over to DK, and they just don't have brains. Makes some sense.
就已经把对面的一塔给拆掉了，
镀层吃满，对啊，然后再换线。
而且那波其实还蛮细节的是，我那波1打1，他
Scuff drafts from Clown Fiesta Games. Yeah, look at that.
故意不把那个塔爆掉，就等你芥末来手刀，再叫队友过来把他。
We're in the glee with some questionable plays, yeah. Snake MVP, understandable. That Ziggs was pretty damn monstrous. I think like it takes a particularly bold call to say, okay, I have seen Ash Neela. We know how this works. It's really bloody scary. Our play is we need to. I need an answer into this. I'm going to lock my Ziggs. I think we can play into this. And in fairness, does actually annihilate the lane really, really well. And it kind of avoids the all-ins. I think Vampire as well, picking up the Mikhails early, really made Crisp's life a lot harder. We never saw a very good Apotheosis the entire game from Light. He was kind of a little bit late to a lot of the plays. Wasn't there when they started a lot of the time. Yep. Bit of a split vote from me. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. What was it? 3 for bot, and then the other ones kind of all took 1 each. Which makes sense. About half the votes went that way.
我们也恭喜 EDG 在这场比赛先下1比0，暂时领先。我们是不是要交给宋琦酱了？
好的，感谢2位解说老师的赛后分析啊！我们也是收到消息，接下来呢是 WBG 对阵 EDG 的第2局比赛，EDG 选择红色方，同时 WBG 更换打野小号上场，让我们一起期待双方的第2局比赛吧。我们先稍事休息。
Okay.
就这样了吗？或者说
Mecha, what role does what role do you play, Mecha? Don't think I know you're more of a watcher than a player. Trinity, who's the other LDL enjoyer, big time in my chat, is big time Akali, mate. Light better drop 90k map too from Miggy. Good luck. It wasn't a great map, but in fairness, like it's an odd one because I think that this is just the duality of Neela. Either you look amazing or you do next to nothing. There isn't really another way in because you don't have any other play patterns. Your play pattern is all in or die trying.
OPPO 5X7 系列搭载 OPPO 全球首款双潜望4主摄。
We shall see.
拍人像大片就得选 OPPO。OPPO 5X7 系列大师影像更有分量。
More main role. Would assume support life at this point. Fair enough. I really need to sneeze, not again.
皇冠战马更受中国电竞用户喜欢的能量饮料，更受年轻人喜欢的中国能量饮料。
Oh.
电竞当然有我，有能量当然战马。
Thank you very much. I shall trade you. Look after chat for me. This cushion is very nice. I never got one of those.
So, like, basically what it is the cushion is there basically because they don't have very good like ergonomic design without it. So it's because it's like, yeah, we need to use these chairs somehow, and we'll just see how it does that. Okay, right. We have a little while. I need to drop some ads on Twitch. Sorry, there was some in the last game. That's my bad. Wait, can I do ads again? I don't think I can actually. Maybe a little while. I think I have to though, because otherwise they're gonna be in the next game. Gonna be off yet? Yep. Gonna run some ads now, just so you don't get undrafted for the next game, and hopefully they'll be okay. So, right, are we going to see a 2-0 EDG at the death of the split form? A loss today is out of playoffs. And I'm gonna have to at some point watch through T1D Plus as well.
Hello， 各位召唤师，欢迎回来！您正在收看的是2024英雄联盟职业联赛春季赛，目前正在进行的是 WBG 17对阵上海 EDG 合创汽车的比赛。现在呢 ，EDG 是1比0领先。我们看到线下有很多召唤师来到我们的联盟竞技场，为两支战队加油助威。那么在第2局比赛开始之前，我们还是有一些讯息要同步给大家。比赛间歇无事可做，和好友来一局，人在塔在。LPL 官方授权小游戏正式上线。
I'm just gonna pretend that isn't weird.
快来跟小伙伴们一起上分。微信搜索“人在塔在”小程序，无需下载，点击即玩。暗金重生，巨鳄来袭！购买英雄联盟手游精英版宝典，额外赠送炫彩皮肤、暗金巨鳄、紫喜传说、雷克顿。
I kind of want this to be a 2-0. I wanna actually have a break before we go watch Dune. I think we should be okay if we have 2 games and they both go long. Might be an issue. Well, if that's the case, I'll just solo cast the last game. I'll solo cast the last game, so this time I'm gonna go watch Dune. It'll have to be okay. Coming to 3. So we're gonna get into draft, what, the next couple of minutes? So if it goes to 3 games, probably like another hour on top of it. Yeah, it could get close. Hey Sam, where are we watching Dune? Oh, that's okay. So we can walk down there. Yeah, I'm just wondering how much.
If it goes to game 3, it might get a bit dicey.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, speaking a million words a second there. LCK offline server. Yeah. I'm surprised that more regions didn't do offline servers before. I feel like that would have saved a lot of issues.
I think that's a right decision.
Yes, I know, but I'm surprised that that hasn't been done before. So.
就阿乐这个战术地位太高了呀，没问题啊，上把最后是选了个杰斯，也是拿了很好的效果。
I haven't been. There's a comment on the Reddit thread for the T1 DK series. I haven't been keeping up with DK. The main takeaways from this series: their hands are good, which we all know. Their brains at times, not so much. I wonder if now, because I wonder if now there's going to be like a chance to get offline service for anywhere else. Actually, okay, we should be getting into draft pretty soon. We're on stage. Cameras here normally means that we get ourselves to draft pretty soon. Oh, so Xiaohao is in, Yodang is out. Okay, that'll change things. Right, so Yodang's gone. I don't even think he had that bad a game, but I guess they thought, hey, let's try and see what we can do against EDG. They're a struggling team. Give him some good experience, and I guess that they don't like what they see right now. They don't want to throw a series here. If they throw a series here, they might end up going out of playoffs. So like they shouldn't be losing to EDG. So.
他看比赛就像我们一样，就是直接看一个全图。
是，所以啊，旁观者清，小号在台下看了一局，
人在塔在是吧？
台下看了一局，应该就比较清楚了。
那 ZDZ 上把的剑魔感觉是打得比较上头啊，
有点上头啊，河道那波呀。
是的。哎，那我感觉这一把有没有可能 WBG 就是回到他们原来的就是那种战术思路，就是上路我搞个坦克肉住，下路搞个强对线，但是下路强对线真的不能再选尼拉了，这容错率太低了。
对，上一把实际上 WBG 选的就是强对线，但是没打出来啊。
就其实尼拉寒冰下路很强，但是就是那一波失误把自己的优势给葬送掉了，
一下子就打没了。
Okay, so Yodang, 1 game. Right, let's see if EDG can bring us to. Well, let's see if Weibo can bring us to 3. I would quite like it to be a 2-0 because it's been a long day.
对，听起来很美，但是这个画面其实在刚才的比赛中一次没看到，
没打出来呀，
没打出来啊。也感谢到场的粉丝们支持喜欢的战队和选手。
Would you prefer Sand and Balance as an ADC? I mean, I like the fact that Senna as a support allows different champions to play in different ways. Getting into draft though. So, EDG take a game in the first match of this series. Weibo, they sub out their jungler brought up from the LDL, Yodang. Xiaohao back into the lineup as Weibo try and claw their way back in this series. They're at 5 and 6. They are on that kind of cusp of playoffs and not playoffs. They are just in. Right now, They would love to win this series. They should not. They should not be expecting to lose against EDG, despite the fact that they are the team which is consistently inconsistent. Love to get themselves back into this series. A loss here today is a huge blow to their playoff chances and maybe opens the door to a team like LNG to sneak in just over them. Going through the first round of bans. Less AD carry bans right now. More towards the top lane. Ala losing a lot of his options towards top side.
Alrighty then. Still, I think those bans make sense from Weibo. Once again, Ala's Jax off the table early this time around is a slightly different look in the picks and bans rather than the AD carry focus, because obviously they went for the early Neela combo. It didn't work out. The Snake had an answer, won the MVP for game 1, and now they're going to go towards something a little more traditional. What it does mean, though, is Senna and Smolder up and available this time around, though. So I wonder whether whichever side will be happy to trade those one out. It feels like the pretty obvious answer. Do EDG see the Smolder angle here? It does feel like it's been the preeminent pick across the world. It's being hovered, and you've got to feel it's locked straight in.
Thing is, if Light and Chris play towards lane dominance again, towards the bot side, do they feel like they can shut it down that way? Now, we've seen a bit of the Kai'Sa, seen a bit of the Zeri. Light is a very good Zeri player, so there's a chance that that one gets locked in.
Bit of Tristana into it as well, actually, though it's been a bit more of a flex.
Xiaohu's best champion in the split has also been Tristana. So there are 2 chances for this to go through. Of course, if it is the Tristana main, it means it's the Karma down towards that support role. And with the Rakan being locked in, Light will likely go towards Tristana. I have to say, Light on Tristana hasn't always been what I wanted to see. I feel like there have been a lot of games where, you know, Weibo need to have Light having late game impact. The Neela in game 1 was not that. And with him on the Tristana, there's a chance that he can get shut down or find it harder to teamfight in his own way.
Nautilus being hovered, and you think that's probably likely locked in. It's been probably the most common bot lane support option. Seen it first picked on blue side sometimes. It certainly feels like it's coming through pretty much every draft in the first 3 options. Now we're going to get through to this rank 2, phase 2, there we go, of bans. They're going to focus towards. You feel like maybe some AD carry options away on EDG's end might not be a bad one. Senna might be a solid ban. No, Twisted Fate goes away.
I mean, you've already got the Tristana going down towards the bot lane with the Rakan, and then you've got the Karma in towards mid lane. So you know that Tristana is going towards the bot lane. So there's no real point banning away the EDG, banning away AD carries as EDG.
Didn't you say it might also go towards Xiaohu in the mid lane?
But I already said after that, because you have the Rakan, that means the Karma goes into mid lane. So that locks,
sorry, yes, I'm with you. Yeah,
so there's a flowchart here.
No, I'm with you. I missed part of the flowchart, so it was actually the Tristana bot. There we go.
And now we have Monkey and Fisher. Really strong front line there on the other side, though, because Monkey, that temporary front line. It means that Tristana, in a bit of a weird spot, you don't really want to be jumping melee onto a Shinzo.
Last ban of the game, kind of going on through here. It's been mid lane focused so far from Weibo. Need to figure out what they're doing. It's going to be the Jace. Ola did go back to that the last game, and despite some early efforts to shut it down, still ended up being a real thorn in the side. Wei now being considered for Fisher. You've already got the lockdown. It's another artillery piece in the backside alongside the Smolder. Front line plus long range backline makes a lot of sense. You've got good front to back with that, so I think that just gets locked in.
You've got the Smolder in the game. Okay. I think you always have to consider Taliyah on the table. It means that you can go bot lane to cover dives. And of course, on the other side, if you picked it against the Smolder, it can start facilitating those dives. Fisher takes it for himself, and it's okay matchup into that Karma. It means that you have a dual long range, and that also, the big thing about Taliyah as well is you're jumping in with something like that Taliyah, the Tristana rather, it can make it a lot harder for him to play those team fights. Again, anything which makes Light's job harder in team fights is disproportionately good against a team like Weibo, because Weibo need him to do a lot of work.
So, we've got ourselves the solo lanes all sorted, just to figure out what jungle they want to go towards. Lee Sin is perennial favourite. We'll wait and see what they decide on. It might be something a little bit more interesting. Nocturne as well has kind of been a strong option in the jungle, is going to get locked in. You've already got the Tristana and the Rakan to jump forward with you. ZDZ on the Aatrox can also be a brawler to join you in the big melee that you're looking to create. Find your top lane counter pick here for Ala, who may look towards an old favorite of his. It's only a hover for now, but maybe looking to find some way to break the game from the top side.
Yeah, having some side lane pressure is good, but you also need to be able to survive against the Nocturne, which is why I looked at that pick and I'm saying you're not likely to lock that in because of the Nocturne. So instead the Poppy comes through. Ala has always been a very good frontline player for EDG. He has gone towards the carries, but even on stuff like the Cassandre and the Poppy, I feel like EDG win when Ala is actually on a frontline champion for this year. I think it's actually not necessarily been about his split push champions, which he's found so much fame on in the past. And the Poppy now against the Tristana as another kind of anti-jump champion against the Aatrox and the Rakan. I think this has huge value.
Okay, they have managed to lock that one in. They've got the front to back, they've got good dive, and actually, because you've got things like the Smolder on in here with some fairly decent protectiveness, and then on top of that, things like the Poppy to maybe deny some of the divers, particularly the Nocturne on the other side, I do get a little bit nervous, actually, for the side of Weibo here, because if they kind of let the game get towards the 5v5s rather than the early sort of skirmishes where the Poppy might not be involved, I think it might get a little tricky for them.
Yeah, I definitely have to say, I'm walking away from this draft thinking that the execution barrier for Weibo is pretty high.
Yeah,
There's a
higher at least.
Particularly because you have so much anti-dash stuff around in multiple different forms. It just feels like reaching the backline is like goes through the barbed wire, going through no man's land. So Weibo, another difficult game for them. Game 1 got exponentially more difficult when they lost that bot lane early on. Light needs to be a factor for this team, and this draft is not making it any easier. EDG might have locked themselves into a decent position.
It's all well and good indexing in towards your AD carry. Tristana obviously a good carry in and of her own right. One of the OG hyper carries back when you could flex her towards AP in the mid lane and the rest of it. People who remember Season 1 will tell you all about that one. But on the other side, actually, you've still got to deal with the fact that you're facing up against a Smolder who is nearly unmatched. Probably actually is unmatched in terms of just the raw DPS value he brings past about 22 odd minutes when those 225 stacks begin to come online on a regular basis. And then you've still got to deal with the fact that Talir is going to be a bit problematic. You still have to deal with the fact you've got a lot of pick on the side of EDG as well, which can probably match a lot of what Weibo want to do.
If EDG go too aggressive themselves, there's the chance that they end up getting bonked a little bit by a ZDZ teleport or Xiaohao ulting in.
Yeah.
So there's, I think EDG needs to be... I think when EDG go aggressive, it's not necessarily the easiest situation for them too, particularly with even stuff like Buster Shot. It's quite a nasty ability to deal with. So, EDG, for me, they walk away with a better draft than Weibo. Is it enough to seal out this game completely? Well, of course not. A lot of the early game comes into a big part of this too. Xiaohao is back into the roster instead of Yodang as well, which means that Weibo may be playing towards a bit more of a comfort lineup, especially since Yodang came in for his first game in LPL of this year to this roster. He has been in the LPL before, but Xiaohao, last year on Anyone's Legend and now here, and Weibo has tried to be the tip of the spear. Maybe that will help Weibo go forwards.
See a little bit of the win rate curve come up there. And we had that pop up a couple games ago when we saw that perhaps those stats haven't yet incorporated the Smolder value in yet. It was like, huh, interesting, saying the game state actually doesn't favour the Smolder, and then it really did. Ended up being the win there in the first series for RNG. And this time around as well. Going to see whether those play out correctly, whether the Smolder can begin to sway those stats even more before, of course, the stat changes come in a patch or so, where they're really hammering him in terms of the value he's getting from the stacks and how long it'll take to get those max stack values in the first place.
Have to wait a little longer to see that hit the LPL. Of course, the thing with the LPL is that it often changes patch quite slowly.
Yeah, true.
And hell, we don't even know what patch will be on the playoffs as well, so we'll see if that actually ends up becoming relevant. Good W there from Ala in lane. Ala on the Poppy. One of the few top lane players of this champion, him, 369. I think that obviously Birdall, now he's in the region, he's been playing a lot of that too, but it's kind of rarely seen. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it. Feels like with a lot of the tanks like Cassandre and Udyr falling off in a bit of priority, something like the Poppy is one of the last remaining tanky frontline champions you can play towards topside.
Okay, Monkey once again doing a little bit of a reverse clear here to just try and be around bot lane a bit earlier just in case anything happens, and also defend against any potential invade because of course the shove is there early on from Light. quite crisp.
You could even see there was a blue ping on the minimap onto red buff of EDG, so I think Weibo, without the wards into the enemy jungle, they don't exactly know where Monkey is in regards to his jungle pathing. They should be able to tell with Ala, you know, crashing in this wave towards topside and the Snake and Vampire kind of sitting under turret, that it's likely that Monkey will be shielding topside, but they don't know exactly where he is on topside. With that vision plant just spotted now, then you'll know exactly where he is.
Alright, so the Scuttle Crab now claimed. This is partly what you can do with that kind of fake pressure stuff in jungle. It's like, look, as long as I'm off vision, but in the river, both mid and top have to play like I could be there, if they don't know for sure. And it can make playing the lane a little bit trickier. ZDZ, not quite over-shoving as yet, but still has to play that little bit cautious in case, of course, Monkey could be around.
Though, still very happy with how this top lane is going, and then after your first back or two, you feel really, really good after that point. Interested to see whether ZDZ has to go towards something like the Sundered Sky early, just because playing into tanky matchups in topside can be a bit of a pain, especially if they do have genuine threat onto you. Might just say, okay, whatever, I'm not going to win the 1v1, it's more about just getting Profane Hydra and impact in those team fights. Because if you can get on top of the Taliyah and the Smolder, it is huge payoff for your team. I don't really think Aatrox wants to be a frontline in this game. He wants to be killing the carries rather than withstanding them.
And he was pretty threatening in the last game. It went deep once or twice and maybe cost out some of those fights. But on the whole, I think had a pretty impactful Aatrox game, even if it wasn't enough to win it on out. As Xiaohao still off vision. I don't think he was spotted on his way over here, so shouldn't be a known quantity as he comes up towards the Scrumpers. Also, Crisp on the reset, roaming around on this Rakan, maybe looking to see whether anything can be found here, as Grubs will be spawning in 10 seconds.
Some wards from topside on EDG, I mean they'll spot Xiaohao up as he goes towards that. I think the EDG, they're okay to let, you know, a couple of these Grubs go away. They don't exactly have their item breakpoints right now, and they don't have the level 6 from Fisher either, which I think changes the way that this game goes. I mean, the rookie mid laner from EDG, well, it's the rookie everyone besides top lane from EDG, particularly this mid lane, he's had a mixed split. He started off playing a lot of the Azir, and he really flubbed some big moments for his team. He's not really been star-studded in the way that he was in LDL. This game, now with their backs against the wall, with a chance to actually seal out a series that would keep somehow their playoff streams just alive a little longer, he has quite a lot of responsibility here on the Taliyah to make sure that EDG can have that global presence from mid lane.
When you said rookie mid lane, I thought you were talking about rookies Taliyah yesterday, because of course he was really, really good then for a second. I was like, no, slightly different context on this particular phrasing. Of course, you're right. This Taliyah has to do quite a lot this game. The Taliyah, along with the Xin Zhao, has been a pretty preeminent combo in the LPL to make things happen.
Dragon spawned, level 6 not hit from Xiaohao yet, but it has been hit from the mid laners, as we were just talking about. And because of that, you can see the amount of wards in bot side from the blue coloring. Weibo have put, what, two pink wards down on that bot side to stop Fisher getting easy access to bot lane.
Yeah, that's been the option. Monkey turned up in the mid lane, but Xiaohu plays it out just fine, still manages to clear out the wave. And the Grubs went towards Weibo as well, as what looked to be the first dragon, managing their lane priority very well here to get the early objectives.
Lane priority, and again, that vision control we just mentioned. It is hard for Fisher to get into a position to have a good wall down here.
Would be a very blind wall.
Yeah, of course, one of the other combos they want to play towards later in the game, not now, and of course Ala doesn't have teleport anyways, of course, Taliyah Poppy. You normally see that from mid-jungle, but with this Ala pick in the top side, can be pretty big in terms of setting up your own terrain for your wallstone. It's like the, here's one I made at home earlier.
I remember like way back in, well, it was season 6 when you saw the Anivia Poppy combo from
Albus Nox
Luna. You know, it's always fun when you have those combos where Poppy has someone make terrain for her to mess other people up with.
Yeah, we see that with the Azir, of course, he's global lane as well right now, so that was actually quite common from a couple of our junglers in the mid lane combos. Really good engagement in that mid lane. In fact, Azir being out of the meta has really changed the way that we play around mid jungle. It felt like Azir was one of those few champions that kind of did it all.
And multiple ways of playing as well, right? Because actually the Lich Bane option was a thing for a while.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He does it all.
Yeah.
You know, like he was the jack of all trades from mid lane, where you are very good backline damage. You can be tanky as well if you go for the tank build.
And
even then, you can still have really good DPS. You have side lane pressure. You can be an engaged threat. You can be a backline DPS. He just did everything. And I mean, stuff like the Taliyah and the Karma, they can do a lot, but they can't quite match that. Hooks and bot lane, as we've got a trade, as Billy lets us know it's unhappy.
It is. Light, I don't think has the rocket jump available, so he could be in a spot of bother here. I don't know how much DPS is really going to come back, as we do now turn towards the top lane. ZDZ is in a 1v2 as Monkey turns up. Flash blown towards the top lane. finally get ourselves back to what's looking like a bit of a fight. Good grand entrance, gets 2, force the flash out of the Snake alongside Vampire. So while no kills come on through, both flashes off the bot laners. Feels like an okay trade there for Weibo Gaming's first Nocturne ultimate.
And technical difficulties aside, at least no one hits the ground with it too. The Snake just gonna ult his way through that bot side as well. We're just gonna change some of this quality and hope that Billy gets a little bit happier with us too. Of course, is some of the nature of doing co-streams and not exactly having the clean feed as well. We hope that it cleans up as it goes on as well. This is Weibo looks to clean up their game from game 1. We can see a bit of a picture-in-picture from something that we missed, of course, as well, which was a flash blown on top side.
Xiaohao still sticking around here. They want to make this work. Here comes Weibo. 2v3 currently. The damage back is huge. Don't quite get Crisp, and it'll be a 1 for none right now. Big chunks come on through as Fisher gets the wall. Can look to shovel on through as Xiao, who gets the thread on to try and hold him in place, but it will be the 1 for 1 as Fisher comes out to claim the life for Xiaohao.
Okay, so Fisher, we said he had a lot of responsibility in kind of keeping that global pressure up from mid lane. I think that Weibo did a good job of stopping him getting the initial roam with vision and also starting off the dive quickly. Light picks up the kill all the same though, and he's going to be happy with that one. And of course on the other side, Smolder doesn't even get himself an assist, so mission accomplished if you're trying to deny the Smolder. A little bit annoying that that kill goes over to Fisher. Initial combo, it's kind of hard to make things work without the Nocturne ultimate, but when you've got the Rakan hitting combos, makes things a little easier all the same. Fisher at least cleans up 1.
Yeah, no, I thought the flash come on over, it was pretty much guaranteed at that point. Xiaohu tries to deny it with the W, but can't make the tether work. Over the grubs we go. I wonder if they can take at least 2. They deny the 5 from Weibo, which is always a significant break point. Does look like that will be all they come here for, denying that key break point.
Dala might have been left out a little bit in the lurcher on top side, but he's happy just picking up his buckler shield and walking away. Down 10 CS, but he's pretty happy with how things are going up there. Not always the easiest laning phase into Aatrox. Yes, you can block the dash, but you can kind of trade onto you at easier intervals with his Q cooldown as opposed to you kind of using your passive and then your E as well to get on top of him. EDG a little bit far behind, and especially for the 10-minute mark, as they're eking out small deficits across each lane as Weibo kind of push the ante up.
Of course, EDG with the game 1 victory means that Weibo, of course, with the switch back of the junglers, with another look at a different style of draft, trying to right the wrongs of the first game. And they are up with the early objectives and kills, but actually this is not a great moment from Xiaohu, who has a flash and may be forced to pop it here, but I don't even know whether it's worth doing, because where on earth does he go? Kill over to EDG's jungler.
And that's something that we've kind of known from Xiaohu, caught out a lot, not necessarily been living up to his own expectations. One of the greatest players to ever grace the LPL has had a bad 2024 so far, and Fisher now 1-0-1 on a pick we've just asked him to have impact on. You get to play towards bot side, and then the rest of his team comes to help him in mid. He's going to get himself a plate towards mid lane too, so EDG, well, they were just a little bit far behind in terms of like the 10-minute mark, getting something back for themselves at least.
They do. Light gets a couple plates in the bot side as well, so the Tristana trying to do what Tristana does, which is use that satchel. No, the explosive satchel was from the Ziggs last game, to try and get some turret plate damage where she can. And the game remains close enough, and the problem is, we saw this already today. Close enough versus a Smolder isn't close at all, because it's free scaling. Of course, it's not anywhere near critical masses yet, but you've got 10 minutes or so really until Smolder hits the stacks and you get really nervous.
So Dragon comes up, that's a good hook in, Snake doing some damage.
Oh, huge amount of damage from Crisp, who immediately gets to be thrown back, but the wall can come on forwards. Fisher looking to get something more, the quickness comes on through, but the threaded volley still going, the seismic shove onto Light, forces him away. Crisp now low, Xiaohao is here, begins to go in with the Nocturne ultimate and does delete Fisher, who went a little bit blown by himself. Now the Crescent Guard coming on through, Xiaohao's got nowhere to go. On the other side, the tether lands. Massive damage onto the Snake who's flapping away. Monkey in a 1v3 cannot get anybody. And EDG, despite getting so many low health bars, get nothing. And you're right, it's not ended. Vampire blocks out a Q as Snake tries to recall, but has nowhere to go. Oh, EDG. It looked so good until it really didn't.
Oh, EDG. Fisher goes too far, he ends up getting CC'd up and can't get the value he wants, and that gives the opening to Weibo to start the fight on their terms after EDG had taken the first swing. Weibo They just managed to, well, they just lost their gold lead. They explode it once again, and they're going to get themselves a dragon off of this too. Starts with Vampire trying to remove the engage threat from Crisp. This is valuable. If can't get himself a good combo, makes things really difficult for it. See that Fisher tries to finish this off, get himself a kill here. I feel like this is just not the most valuable person to go towards, though. Light gets to open up the DPS taps onto Fisher, and then he walks too close to the Nocturne. First range of that ultimate is not that large, but it is more than close enough in this case, and Xiaohao gets himself into the middle of it. Very, very close. Monkey almost wins out in a 1v3 as he dodges out in that knockup, but he misses a W crucially in there somewhere along the way, and he goes down.
Feels a little bit like that from EDG as well. A bit of split prioritization. Maybe if they stick around to fight with Monkey, they might get a few kills back, rather than instead they get nothing at all. Pretty difficult to see, and instead, Weibo get away with another dragon. They come away with a number of kills, and EDG in a slightly awkward position. Monkey doesn't have flash, does have the Crescent Guard, and I wonder how far Weibo are willing to go for this. Over they come. Fisher's here, throws down the Unraveled Earth, and Xiaohao needs to be a little bit afraid. Doesn't have the paranoia to work with and is forced to flash.
The Monkey ends up blowing his ultimate. The thing about Shinsao is that once he has to be on the retreat, it can get a little bit hairy for him. He has ways to go in. He doesn't have a free target backwards. He doesn't always have enemies to dash to away from the fray.
Pray for Raptors being up.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones as well. Scuttlecrab known to also save many a skin of Shinsao in the river. Still, Weibo starting to get themselves some access to early turrets now as well. Lights has himself 1.5 items. You can start bombing down these towers alongside the waves, which kind of shuffle into them too. So EDG, bit of an awkward moment for them. That dragon fight has put them into a dangerous position. And buddy, you don't want to be tanking that for free.
Just loses like his entire health bar there as Light just stands there as an auto-sim. Like, I dare you to come forwards.
Well, I think that Ala with flash was potentially trying to see if he could get him under turret with a flash backwards.
He's just turret down now, isn't it?
It was going to be that anyway, likely, unless Ala had something to say about the 1v1. So Light, big golden pocket for him, whereas on the other side, the Snake had himself some alone time, but it's not really going to be the same kind of value.
On the mini-map as well, as we zoom on over, the Herald has been started and will likely be claimed by Weibo Gaming, who have got themselves grubs, couple towers, 2 dragons. They're feeling pretty okay with this early game. Gold onto the Tristan as well feels pretty nice, and what had been a relatively close affair isn't anymore. And of course, you know, you've still got to deal with the fact that Smolder, a couple deaths to his name, but isn't out of the game exactly. That said, though, the snowball has begun rolling, and Weibo want to accelerate it a little further.
Of course, keeps bringing back to the question, how much is enough versus the Smolder? It's a decent gold lead. They managed to open the map on side lanes now. That's important, but is that enough? The Snake is at 1.5 items, not at 2 just yet. Doesn't have any kill participation, which will... that's good news then.
Yeah.
That's good news if you're a Weibo fan, because the Smolder has ruined many a game. And we'll see whether EDG can mount themselves a comeback, I think. My eyes really are on the kind of... playmakers, particularly of mid-jungle and support, kind of finding themselves angles onto the map to punish Weibo if they overstep. It's a bit problematic now that you have Xiaohao getting up to first item with Stridebreaker. If you overstay into a play, the Stridebreaker slow can really threaten a player like Monkey, who doesn't, as we said, have a clean way out of a lot of these plays.
Doesn't feel like it as EDZ eats a buckler. That sounds pretty unpleasant, actually. I don't think eating a buckler is particularly
You know,
tasty.
there's a guy that cuts up bicycles and cars and stuff and eats them over time.
I've forgotten about that.
It's in a Guinness World Record where someone has a world record for eating a load of vehicles. They don't have vision here. Vampire does have flash. He's not going to use it.
Yep, that one's sad. A little bit too close to the sun for a vampire, which means very extreme sunburn. ZDZ does go forwards. Turret comes on down. Smolder ults to clear the wave. Think they'll deny the second charge, and they do so.
But it is now all outer towers down for EDG at 17 minutes into the game, which is a really good timestamp for Weibo to be taking some position on the map. A lot of gold going over to the various members of Weibo. It's not necessarily that spiky. You have good damage on both of your carries now. Ala might have stayed up a little too far in this bot lane, but he's going to be fine himself. The Aura of Perseverance. What's the thingy?
Steadfast
Presence. That's the one. The Aura stuff is completely different. That's Soda. I saw it earlier in T1. I was like, yeah, that's in my brain. Vampire here just disrespectful. I think you can flash out of the knockup here and you'll be fine. Doesn't use that all the same, and just not there with the reaction times.
Yeah, and that's a nice little pick-off from Weibo as well. They found a good bush to hang around in. I suppose, on the other hand, maybe Vampire saying, look, I'd rather keep the flash for a more valuable moment than just a random death between timers. There's something to that as well with Dragon Fight coming up. If you can maybe fight for that instead, or have it around for what could be a, I would say Baron, but it's still a couple minutes off that being down. You know, there is something to say for holding on to the flash there.
Yeah, but they also end up losing the mid lane turret after that too to the Herald. You feel like maybe being able to stick around for a hook and an ult might have been more valuable. Either way, I mean, it's just a question of the past now. They've already lost that. Now EDG need to ask about what is the next step. Dragon is up. There is no vision control on the bot side of the map. I think EDG, they'll be okay to give over a Chemtech Soul and just say we can scale up for as long as we possibly can before we want a proper fight. Try and get themselves some gold in side lanes.
Also, it's not the fastest soul timer either. Third dragon at 18 and a bit minutes, isn't that great? Ult comes on through. Not huge value from that, actually. They get the turret, teleport aside, and the Nocturne ult comes on down. Tristana will solo out the dragon at the very least.
Well, there's your flash. There you go. Vampire ends up surviving the next play with that one as EDG gets some gold onto their mid laner. And as we said multiple times this game, with the Talir in this kind of game, you are so important. You are there to peel for your AD carry to stop someone dashing through it. I believe Nocturne doesn't get, well, he doesn't get interrupted by the things, but he definitely
takes damage.
He takes damage from it too, so you can stop the Nocturne ult from being quite as potent. You can stop a lot of people from dashing in. Extra gold on this carry and the Seraph's game making him more survivable as well. Means that EDG's mid laner might have something left to say in this game, despite the fact that there is a 4k gold disadvantage. It's just how much time can you now buy for this Smolder? 5 minutes until that soul, or 4 minutes rather. And then I think EDG, I think they have to give up the soul unless there is a very opportunistic pick for them.
Yeah, 157 stacks currently for the Snakes, so not awful. Should be on time for the soul at the release, and as I said, a 24, 23 and a bit minute mark. Soul isn't the greatest, and the Chem Soul as well isn't necessarily known for being the most domineering of souls. So you can probably look to give that one up if you have to and just say, well, we'll just be better later anyway. But we shall see as it stands. Weibo are the ones in the driver's seats, are the ones with the gold lead and the objective lead. And with Baron spawning in about 15 seconds, that becomes an additional threat to consider on EDG's end.
It does, and I think with EDG being on red side, it makes it harder to contest the dragon because you have to fight your way into river through mid lane, which you don't have an outer turret in. And that's not something you can give up. You can give up a soul when it's the Chemtech. You can't give up the Baron. I think that just means that Tristana gets to walk up to your turrets for free and things go from really bad to worse. It's starting to smell like Weibo with the jungle change out, with Yodang out, Xiaohao in. I mean, feeling much more organized. And EDG, they are now pondering the question of how much time they have left on their timer.
Still, EDG, for all that the early game has been a little bit anemic again from them. Not a very clean team on the whole in general. It's been a frustration for them. They've managed to get some leads, then throw it away in other games where they've just failed to come online at all. This time, at least they've got an easy play pattern back in the game, which is turtle, and then defend the smolder, and you've got a lot of tools to do that.
Is this LNG or EDG? You decide. The LPL as a whole has slowed down a lot as a region this year. We've had a couple of teams up the ante. FPX, Top Esports, OMG, they feel faster than some. And BLG, when they choose to put on the afterburners too, they are very, very strong in the early game. But on the whole, on average, the LPL has slowed down by 3.5 minutes. Ooh, wow. See that Weibo have tried to now go in towards this bot side. Monkey taking a bit of damage. EDG, they are really not wanting to fight this. They're giving as much ground as they possibly can without falling out of the game.
The tier 2s aren't currently being threatened, in fairness. They might be in danger here as Fisher and the Snake are in a scary position. They're going to try and jump on the other members of EDG to little avail. Monkey did dash forwards there with the audacious charge, but nothing more to be found aside from a Mantra Q a few seconds later, just Monkey down about a third HP. Xiao Hu had 2 items. I misread the boots as a third item there briefly. Still doing a lot of work here in this mid to late game.
So, Weibo, again, starting to just eke out advantages. One of the things which doesn't always show up in terms of this kind of gold, the stats you see at the top of the screen, is when you're pushed into the enemy side of the jungle, you get to take away a lot of gold from just camps and experience as well. We can see, you know, the gold is in favor of Weibo. That one's obvious, but it's going to start slowly creeping up that way as well because EDG, they're not going to have access to their gun jungle camps, whereas against Xiaohao, they can push into contest camps and then they can go take their own. It just feels like it is just so hard for EDG to hold on in this game now, particularly because of so many easily pushing lanes which stop EDG from having any room to breathe.
Well, just check the checklist for EDG's miracle comeback cure, and step 1 is 2 items on Smolder, that's done. And step 2 would be 225 stacks. He's only at 196 right now. He's going to take another 3 waves. It'll be 201 after this one. So yeah, I think it is going to be 2.5 waves. Maybe if he can claim a jungle camp, that would bring him to the stack point, but I don't think it's going to quite happen yet. Maybe if they can delay around the start of this dragon, they might be able to get some.
Yeah, you don't want to just have this dragon be burned down for free. I think the EDG would like to give some kind of cross map somewhere. I don't really think they want to contest for it. They don't have everything they want. They don't even have a Zeal on Snake, which would be nice for the extra movement speed to give him a bit more room to maneuver. EDG, they are walking up. They don't have mid lane priority right now. Allah, buddy, what are you doing there? Very
it was kind of fun.
I mean, Allah, very good front line, and EDG typically play well around Allah as a front line. You can actually just see in terms of the DPS check there. He is actually pretty hard to take down. Weibo are currently not on the train himself. Fisher, buddy, you gotta be so
Gets
careful.
hit with a Q2 on, then down he's beginning to run away, does have the flash. Nala goes forwards, trying to buy his first. ZDZ knocked away, but not miles, only to the other side of the river, so really just turns into a glorified ferry for a
That is
moment.
a huge overstep from Fisher. He can teleport back in. Monkey walking up, he has the temporary front line. How much time can they buy, though?
Fair amount of work. So overcomes the Smolder ultimate, doing a lot of healing and DPS. ZDZ throws back some with a buster shot, does light. Dragon goes down, is now Soul. Crisp goes into the backside, but is hooked up immediately. The seismic shove buys some space. Allah goes forward, and Smolder's free firing, doing as much as they can, but it's not quite enough as yet. It's a 1 for 2 until Xiaohao claims another. Snake, no real way to go. He's got nothing left but a flap, and an auto attack or 2 onto the Wolves. Needs to keep running, and actually the Wolves will body block Xiaohu's ability to mantra Q him, so he gets out alive.
3 for 1, and EDG give up the soul. I mean, importantly, the Snake lives and gets a kill. Is it enough? Whenever there's a Smolder in the game, losing trades can sometimes be okay because the Smolder's still in the fray. Weibo, they'll be looking for a Baron at some point, but I think with Light having to back and with Smolder just still on the table, they don't feel like they can go towards it as easily. Allah somehow, someway lives through that fight too. This Poppy does a good job of being a frontline. Has to do a good job of being a frontliner because the player in the mid lane that we said has big responsibility makes a crucial misstep in late game. Allah has to use the ultimate in an inopportune position to make sure that he is safe from ZDZ potentially CCing him up and putting that damage down. But then without the Talia being there to peel for the rest of the frontline, to get the huge combo up, you can just see how different this is. And for not the first time, EDG in clutch moments have had some big mistakes, and this time it comes from Fisher.
Monkey initially hit up by the Infernal Chains to flash him out. Crisp nearly goes down here. In fact, Smolder finally gets a final Super Scorcher Breath to claim that one out, but then Xiaohao gets to the backside, and enough shielding and damage from Xiaohu makes sure that the rest of the fight still goes the way of Weibo Gaming.
Yeah, some huge damage from Xiaohu in that fight. Have to call out that one. Midway through that fight, of course, Snake hit so many enemy champions that he got himself that upgrade all the same. He's stacking up okay. He's going to get himself another wave in this mid lane. He has ultimate back. EDG, maybe if Fisher doesn't misstep like that again, they can fight well enough. Allah does have teleport. I think that right now, Weibo are happy to keep top lanes out of the equation, though.
I'm not happy enough with that, and the problem is that, yes, you've got a soul, but is it the most valuable one? And Smolder being online, 2.5 items, could still prove to be the undoing of Weibo Gaming. It's happened to many a team around the world. Xiaohu now looking for a flank and a big mantra Q. It's well shielded, so it doesn't get that much value.
Chris was on a flank too, and here they go.
Trying to get into the backside, so still alive though is the damage. Oh my god, just deleted. They've gone too far. The jungler's dead and the Baron's up.
That's a really good point you bring up there. I don't think they can sit as a red side team to go towards Baron easily, especially with Monkey being low HP. With Xiaohu hitting that mantra Q, it means that Monkey is low enough that EDG back off. As a red side team, very hard to finish off that Baron without a fight coming through. It means that EDG, they get themselves a delay, which is important, but it doesn't mean they get to go towards the Baron.
Delay, oh the delay. We know what that means for Smolder, who's picked up another kill on top of that as well. That might have been a shutdown even, so value indeed towards the AD carry, who got the MVP in the last game. All eyes on him here as he gets to 3.5 items.
Importantly so, that fire cannon as well gives you so much good Q auto attack up time. 265 stacks. It's not the most we've ever seen, but it's enough to get that Q3 upgrade. And despite the fact that Weibo had themselves a big late game gold lead, now against Smolder, baby. This is his terrain. And it feels like EDG, with their composition, we did say right at the start of the game, it is hard for Weibo to reach Smolder. Through the minefield, through Poppy, through the Shinzo ultimate and the Nautilus disruption, very hard to make sure that the Snake can't do good damage, which means that anything is possible in this late game now. It feels like it is only Smolder that can do this in this game, but he's here and he's ready.
Xiao on the Nocturne as well. A lot of questions asked of him. It's not as easy at this point in the game to make the Nocturne ultimate as freely as you do earlier on, because you aren't as tanky this point in the game. You go forward, you immediately get deleted by all the things you had to fly through. You said the barbed wire was the way you phrased it in the draft. That's what you're diving through.
Baron's been started, so
Okay.
EDG, they're going to have to be forced to make a response. They have a blue trinket. They're heading over anyway. They're likely knowing that this has happened, but do they have eyes on the HP? Monkey doesn't have flash. He'll have to double into E into it. You can see that the pop ult charged up. That'll be taken down and put down onto a bit of a cooldown. Weibo go back towards the Baron briefly.
Problem is, though, for Weibo, you've still got to deal with the Poppy ultimate consistently on these objectives. Still not stopped. Over EDG come, and there's still the ability for Monkey to get into the pit pretty easily. What happens afterwards? Weibo just have to back away.
You can see that Fisher, with the one with the Weaver's Wall to rotate him quickly over towards Baron, is the one who's actually hovering closer towards mid lane. That means that the Snake can just stay quick more closely with his team, while Fisher can still get over and be the peel threat that he can be. EDG, they might have actually found themselves one of their first opportunities in this game to get some wards away from this Baron. They're not in a position to start it up. You see that the Snake, he's running over heal actually, you can see that there.
Yeah.
You don't always see on this champion, but he's bought it all the same. Elder up in a minute. That is a huge moment too.
Oh, yeah, I think Smolder might quite like to meet their elder ancestor. Clearing up themselves. Still, it is Weibo with that lead, but again, how much does it really mean? It's there on paper, but we have seen time and time again, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who watches Pro League of Legends right now. Realistically, Smolder has an advantage here, and that feels weird to say, down a soul and 4,000 gold, but that's just the truth of it.
You know, the thing is, the Chemtech Soul helps you when you're very low HP, but you're already going to have a decent amount of your HP just not be valid because of Smolder's execute as well. So I think that it's quite valuable in this game when you have, you know, stuff like the Aatrox being in there, but there's no one that tanky, and it feels like the Chemtech Soul is nothing compared to the damage that Smolder will be putting out. All the same, 10% tankiness, 10% damage, under 50% HP. Doesn't feel like enough. EDG, have they spotted Crisp on the flank? If they can spot out that Rakan, that's a lot of the engaged threat gone. Elder is spawned. EDG are actually in the river. They're getting themselves mid-priority, and they're continuing to stack.
Another hook. Vampire, though, doesn't get that much value because, of course, it was a good shield. Shoved back onto Vampire. Was pulled back by the Infernal Chains, I think. Taking down about half HP for his trouble. He needs to look for some honey fruit in the river.
Yeah, it really depends on whether there are any extra ones spawn. I don't see any right now on the minimap, so Vampire is going to have to just sit around. Oh, he's looking for a hook. He's found someone.
One. That's onto ZDZ. Not that much value as Alec comes on forward. Was feeling very eager there.
Shahu looking for poke, looking for that mantra Q, how much value you can get out of it. With this kind of play, it means that EDG give up mid-prior. Fisher is going to have to head back with a combo. He's in a difficult spot now. He might even have to ult across mid lane to get himself under that turret. Light's now going to get himself an option to bomb that tower. Monkey instead going to go over here. But now with Monkey out of position, there's no smite close to the Baron, and there's no front line close to the Baron. Allah's going to get himself a combo, but that's gone way too far.
But the Snake's coming on over. They're not killing quite yet. He's still got the ultimate to work with. His Poppy not quite dead. Turning it around, flashing out. He's alive. ZDZ in a difficult position, finally getting the reset. Trying to do some work. A Snake, though, can delete one back. It's a top laner for a top laner trade. And now the danger commences for both teams. Monkey taken low. Light trying to find an angle to do some work. But Smolder picks up another kill.
Yeah, but they don't have the entrance into this Elder Dragon. They have Fisher with the flash. Maybe he can make a big play. They clear out this brush. That's one of the big pitfalls gone. The Snake standing behind as many teammates as they can. EDG brute force their way into the river again. Crisp has flash. What can you do with it?
Ala's got TP. ZDZ doesn't. If they can hold on 20 seconds, Ala can rejoin the fight, and it'll be a while before ZDZ can be here. Down to half HP. Smolder continues to be a problem. Trying to queue through the Elder Dragon's Monkey, taken desperately low by the explosive charge. Doing some work, Fisher pretty low. They have to back away. They can't get it. The Elder's about to go over to Weibo Gaming. It's secured.
Allah has teleport in 2 seconds. What can they get though, Weibo, before the front line arrives? It's a failed Elder fight for EDG. Low health bars. Monkey surely gonna die here.
Must do. Xiaohu trying to find a mantra queued. Snake hits Xiaohu and prevents him from getting anything more. Elder secured, but it isn't taken cleanly.
Right, so it's a big delay again though on getting these big objectives. Gold advantage, Soul, Elder, and yet we're still questioning the game because there's a Smolder here. The Snake's been able to stack up even more, 330 now. You're going to give the Baron. You can't fight this, the Elder's there already, and I don't think you're going to throw out the Smolder ult in regards to trying to steal this one in a miracle way. Allah made a bit of a mistake in the front line there, which did lead somewhat to the 1-for-1, but the extra damage from Weibo allowed them to get this phase of play where they could finally walk over and get most of those objectives. a lot of this starts from Alec just going too far forward. You know, he sees the 3 people here, and he knows that's here. Fisher comes in for the ultimate to try and zone off the backline. You can see that Xiaohu and Light are not available for the first part of this play, but even then, Alec still goes down, tanky though he might be.
And it's almost a good play. Almost baits Weibo too far, and it doesn't quite work. Xiaohao, once again, really good shield on the hook from Vampire, because if he gets caught at the same time and it becomes a 2-for-1, maybe it looks different.
EDG, they would love to close this one out as a clean 2-0. I think a lot of fans out there for this org, which has struggled so much this year, would love to see that one happen. But Weibo, they have themselves big Baron buff. The Elder buff is going to be falling off just within that 1 minute. All the same though, they're pushing with Baron creeps. You can see that Light and Chris, they do not want to push up too far because there's a lot of stacks onto the 4 item Smolder. Bloodthirster now. And it feels like even though Weibo, they have so many things to work with, it is still so dangerous for them to assume that they can win fights.
Yeah, and as I said, them actually pulling the trigger is sometimes easier said than done. While they've got the double Uber buff, so 30 seconds on the Elder Dragon in particular, they have got a priority to work with. Ale knocks away Light, though, which is a huge way to deny the base being broken.
That's important, because that's going to mean that the Elder buff is going to fall off before the next wave comes in, and that means that even though you have the Baron up creeps, very hard for you to force fight.
Bless you. And they keep on playing this out. Monkey still hanging around, trying to do their very best to maintain some vision elsewhere. And the Snake in the mid lane, clearing up waves best they can. It's the top lane tier 2 that's the next target from Weibo. The Elder Dragon has now fallen off. Monkey steps forward, try to trade him to Xiaohao, and this turret looks like a place that EDG do want to try and stand and fight at least somewhat, but the wave is pretty huge with a double cannon minions. Here comes the Weaver's Wall. Over they go. The lights are put out. Crescent Guard down. Smolder ultimate comes across a few. It does prevent the tower going down for now, but only
then
for the
that
next
leaves
wave.
EDZ alone in the bot side. EDG, they needed to make something out of that because now the base is broken. Elder buff is off. That's why they went for that play. But they lose themselves. Top lane in a turret after the failed defense of it, and then the bot side inhibits it. Feels like a bit of a slow bleed out. But how much can they stop this? How much can they staunch it? The Snake still alive, still potent. And Weibo, they might have to wait for another Baron to end this game.
It's going to be a bit tricky. They hold on to most of their base, but the attempted save of the tier 2 cost them an inhibitor, and they don't actually get anything out of the contest. So, still Weibo game of the win in the overall scheme of things, but they are going to need another set of Uber buffs to try and push to end the game. That means more time for Smolder, and that is always a risky proposition.
Thing is, gold is somewhat decorative at this point. It's not completely, because what it does mean is the more gold, the less valuable Ala is, because he's quite far behind on this Poppy. He's very far behind in terms of farm. The Snake's fine here, can just flap over the wall, knows that he's not going to go anywhere close to that fog. But then the thing is, in terms of the damage, you are never going to be able to stop Snake from getting a couple of Qs across the team fight. Question is, how many can you get exactly? I almost wonder if at some point it's actually worth Light just flashing forward to Buster Shot him out of the fight so they can kill the front line, but they still have to deal with him somehow, some way. It's the problem with this champion, with all of the nerfs waiting for him. That will change at some point in the future, but not now.
4.3k on the Baron power play feels pretty good, but economy Barons are one thing. It's not actually ended the game. It's not kept EDG corralled and curtailed in their base. That is still a problem. The Snake at level 16, rank 3 of the ultimate feels pretty good. There's a lot of healing for himself, more than anything else. It means if you dive onto him, he's still got ways of keeping himself a bit more alive than he might otherwise, and he's nearly at Leandry's too.
Big thing as well, if you manage to get the Fire Cannon Q and then there's an engage that comes through, the ultimate can bring people down into the execute range while the Q is still burning. Now when you also have the Leandry's on the way, you can see the Haunting Guys, which will be there in terms of like just base damage being increased. Very important to see how he can play around that Weibo. They are yet to crack EDG's full defense. They've gotten one inhibitor, but given the amount of damage the Snake has on the Q as well, very, very good wave clear because it's true damage as well on the Q. They have another objective or two left in this before they can really start ending this game.
Some of those Baron minions, you wonder why they're not as effective into small. It's because he still burns through the resists because of the true damage, as you were saying, and setting on fire some super minions. They don't survive very long at all either.
386 stacks. Can get himself to 400 at some point. You see, they're just trying to funnel as many stacks into this AD carry is possible. He still has one item left to put onto the table. With Elder coming up in 20 seconds, he'll have himself his full build arsenal with the Leandries put in. Problem is, EDG is still going to have themselves no lanes pushing to play around this. Teleports available for the top lane is too important to know.
Alright, another Elder fight, but as you said, it's Weibo in the river, Weibo with the vision control, and EDG with the onus to try and find their way into the river. Do they even want to fight it? They're going to try and do so by shoving through mid lane. You can understand why that's a decision process. As Fisher looking for potential weavers.
Fisher, yeah.
Split off the team. Remember, there's still an opportunity for Poppy to ult people out. That makes it a 3v5 in the pit. Can look to steal it. He's knocked over the wall by the Buster shot. And he steals it from over the wall. It's a wind becoming lightning. Can they strike twice? Because it's wind, fire, and ice that will break the hearts of Weibo Gaming.
How many times are we going to see this Smolder get to late game? But it's not even about him. It's about Monkey, the jungler from EDG, who is punted out of the pit and still somehow steals. I think he steals it with a W over the wall.
It was a W over the wall. It really was.
Oh my gosh, and the volume goes through the roof. But EDG, they get themselves into the game in the late game. Baron on the table, they can start pushing back.
And suddenly, just suddenly, it all breaks for Weibo. It all began to look a bit rocky. The foundations looking more and more like they were on a beach, and the rising tide that is Smolder stacks, and a phenomenal invade into the pit.
Oh, what a huge Poppy ult. You don't have the engage from the Rakan even there at this point. And even though, after this, the Buster Shot comes through, the Smite on 12 HP means that the W steals it. Clutch from Monkey.
You cannot ask for a close-up moment, and you can see the excitement in the back room. That is some serious passion.
There's something quite evocative about seeing Clearlove, seeing the EDG jungler stealing one of those late game objectives, as he used to do all those years ago. One of the real greatest of all time. With this, EDG start to close the difference in gold. They get to once again unlock the map for a first time in a very long time. The stacks are still there for Smolder, 417. EDG, they can roll across the map and finally force Weibo to play from their own half.
5 items, level 18, over 400 stacks. Smolder is an unmatched terror in this game. I have seen kaiju movies with less scary endgame bosses.
We'll see if there's another twist in here yet. The Snake has flash. Very hard to get rid of this guy once he's got that flash too, because again, it's so hard to get through. The minefield, so difficult to get through. The Poppy W as well. Jack Show built up for Arla. Getting very tanky in this late game. Again, we said that Poppy is a pretty difficult champion to get through. It really is just Tristana that can kill the tank. Xiao, who's not going to be able to bring that much to bear with the late game Karma, who's starting to fall off. EDG, they get mid lane inner, bot lane inner, maybe get themselves the bot lane inhibitor turret as well.
Weibo now on the defensive for the first time in many minutes. Into the inhibitor they go, and EDG just group up as a 5-man ball of death. And Weibo have to find somewhere to hold on where they can.
EDG needs to be careful about retreating here, because there was the chance that, I mean, as you can see here, the rewards left behind them. And of course, if ZDZ gets onto the backline, then that maybe throws things for a bit of a loop. EDG, they have taken a gold lead at 40 minutes into the game. They go back. Aranjuans is built up for Ala. There are 4 items for Fisher. EDG, we said that, you know, the gold was decorative for Weibo, but now it's starting to get really a bit of a problem as the tanks get tanky.
The Snake went back, sold his Ionian boots for Lucidity, and bought a full GA. He is a 6-item Smolder, baby.
That makes so much sense, because again, as long as he can put out Qs and get value from it, it's so annoying. He has Ghost, he has Flash. If this is one last fight left in the game and he can use Flash and he can use Ghost, then the boots don't mean as much because he already has some ability to bring to bear.
Killing Smolder twice is going to be hard work, I think it's fair to say. The W's continue to fly, the sneezes from this dragon looking more like weapons of mass destruction at this point in the game.
See ZDZ in the bot side pushing up, he has teleport. Arla pushing up the top wave as well, that's a flash hook!
Go, it's the double knockup outwards into Smolder's mother, roaring on through, it's a family affair. Crisp goes in, cannot get that much, it's a solid double knockup. ZDZ into the backside, the Snake still has flash, still has GA, still alive, still not down. We'll finally take it down as Light is still doing work, still not going down, and they actually kill the Smolder! No!
And as EDZ comes onto the Snake, he doesn't have the flash, he couldn't get away, and it's about the Tristana. EDG, after doing all of the hard work, fall apart at 42 minutes into the game. This could have been their redemption. Instead, it is back into the pot. This is surely going to be a Game 3 on the table.
It's a bit of an ironic, painful Baron power play that turns up at the bottom of the screen. 6,000 gold owned, and the game still ends in Weibo's favour.
The death time is too long. EDG, a stolen Elder, a comeback in the late game, even through the hands of Smolder, not enough to bring this to a 2-0. Weibo, the consistently inconsistent team, cross the finish line and bring it to a Game 3.
You just can't make it up, can you? What a ridiculous ending to this game.
So many stacks, and in that last fight, the Snake pretty much misuses his flash. He has the Ghost, he has the flash at the start of it, and he can E over the wall. He ends up just getting put against terrain, and ZDZ can rail him down.